In the age of unsolicited sequels to films that are clearly just made to cash in on the success of the original, Paddington 2 definitely stands apart. It's more like Toy Story 2 or The Godfather 2 than The Matrix Reloaded. By this I mean, it manages to recapture the magic of the original, but then builds on it and becomes even better, rather than just failing to understand what made the first one so great to begin with. I absolutely love this film, and for me what made it so great are the scenes of pure creativity that are dispersed throughout the whole thing. An example is being shown on the screen now, where we get a glimpse into Paddington's inner thoughts in a very creative way, as he opens this book and then we see him inside exploring London with his aunt, as he really wants to do. Rather than keeping everything grounded in reality, which can be very boring, Paddington 2 isn't afraid to do something a bit different, and I guess a bit arty, to communicate meaning and to tell the story in a much more interesting way, and it just makes it a delight to watch. Most films would have just told you, oh, Paddington really wants his aunt to come to London, but this film doesn't just tell you, it shows you. And this is really what cinema's all about, it tells you something in a language that everyone can understand, which is the visuals. These scenes are a perfect example of CGI being used to actually enhance the storytelling, instead of the filmmakers just over-relying on it, which ends up hurting the film. The Hobbit. These scenes actually humanise Paddington by giving us a glimpse into what he's thinking and feeling, allows the audience to empathise with him, which is really important when you have a CGI character, because you need something there to make them real. And where people get all caught up on how good the animation looks, I think if you have an actual emotional connection to these characters, that's real enough. Well, I mean, obviously Paddington is a real bear, but I just mean in the let's move on. I'd also like to praise the action scenes in this film, because they're really well choreographed, but they also serve to advance the narrative of the film. This is something that a lot of Hollywood films seem to really not grasp. Like, they'll put an action scene in where two people fight, and neither one of them wins, and that's it. And that's just pointless. Whereas if the action really advances the narrative and there's something to gain and there's consequences, that's when it's really exciting. But it also then causes the audience to actually care about what's happening, because obviously in a Marvel film, you want the hero to win, but I don't know how many people really truly care and have emotions connected to that. But this film manages to do that, which is why it's so great. As well as these creative scenes, the cinematography throughout the whole film is exemplar. Clearly a huge amount of thought and detail went into it. Also, I kept thinking throughout the film, so many of the shots looked like they were done by Wes Anderson, because there was these lovely pastel colours and the framing was very symmetrical and very interesting, which is something I really liked about it. And this point that it looks like it was shot by Wes Anderson brings me on to my biggest compliment for this film. Even though it's a big budget blockbuster, which is an incredibly entertaining cinematic experience for the audience, it also feels like it's a British independent film that isn't afraid to use creativity to tell the story in a more interesting way. And I, most of the time, prefer independent films because they're always just a bit more interesting, they put more thought into how it's shot and how it's told. So the fact they managed to get this sort of feeling into a big budget film is just amazing because it opens a wider audience's eyes to better filmmaking. So overall, Paddington 2 is funny, it's witty, it's exciting, it's heartwarming, and it's expertly done where the whole film builds up to this ending moment at the very end of the film. And because it's done so well, the emotional impact is outstanding, and I haven't felt that many emotions watching a blockbuster film for a long time. Paddington 2 is exactly the sort of film that I want to be making in the future, so everyone that worked on it should be really proud of what they've accomplished, and hopefully I'll get to join in and work on Paddington 3. That would be pretty good. So thank you very much for watching this review, and I'll see you next time.
This is breaking and entering! I haven't broken anything.